You look
Hey.
fresh. You look like you slept on time, Mel. Didn't you stay up for one of the greatest draws in the history of cricket?
Oh, why would I stay up for a draw? Aren't they always boring? No, I stayed up as long as I could. But it wasn't the cricket that bored me, okay? And I'm all for a good draw.
Here,
So
I
let's
thought you were one of us. I thought you were old school. Clearly not. Yeah, I guess go watch your T20 blast, Mel.
let's get on with the show. Hello and welcome to the good, the bad, and the ridiculous at the end of an enthralling draw, wasn't it? Oh boy, there's been some reaction to that. Quite a few questions on that coming in. I can see some. Hello, everyone who's joining us live already. I can see one there from Rahul straight away. Chauhan saying, going for a draw is a bad presentation for Test cricket by England with no pressure of World Test Championship points. Why settle for a dull draw? Well, we have got a few other nominations that came in on Twitter for that one as well. First up, I love putting pressure on our producer, Muku, from at Robin Carey. It is ridiculous that so close to the final, a match is played between top Test cricket nations at Lords. It's not included in the next phase of the World Test Championship, and England had no intent of winning. They missed Ben Stokes or just lack of self-trust. We also had another nomination on that subject. It was, of course, the hot topic of the day. Ridiculous, Linux Leah says. The English openers trying to pad their stats with a 2-session red inker in a draw and failing. I think we also had another one in there as well. Another nomination. Come on, Muku, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Come on, Muku. He's a bit slow today, isn't he? At Kalyan Fortis says the match doesn't even count in the World Test Championship with crowds coming in on day 5, slow over 8s, rain ruining any chance of a result. Don't you think England could have given it a shot? There was nothing to lose. Well, there was a test match to lose and possibly a series to lose. So what I love about declarations and then them ending in draws is that it brings out the inner armchair captain in all of us, doesn't it? It just does. When to declare, how much time to give them, how many runs to give them to chase, sporting or not, and then whether or not to go for the win. All of us with nothing to lose have a strong opinion on it. What did you think about that, Bharat?
I think it was the best result for the World Test Championship because I've not seen so many people talk about the World Test Championship when the tournament was actually on. Suddenly, everybody's talking about, hey, there were no World Test Championship points up for grabs. There was nothing to lose. But, there was no World Test Championship around till 2 years ago, and every Test series mattered nevertheless, and so does this one. England have a long summer ahead, 2 tests against New Zealand and 5 tests against India. So even though they're not in the World Test Championship final, it's their summer. And, it's the first test of the summer, first test of a 2-match series. It wasn't the easiest pitch to just go and play some shots. I know there's been a lot of talk about intent. At least the opener should have gone for it, shown some intent, and then maybe see they could have always played. But you're talking about a team that
have you seen their openers?
Exactly. True. Dom Sibley, God bless him. I thought he did not do his own career any harm with the way he hung around because New Zealand were bowling at their best. They bowled extraordinarily well. Neil Wagner, we'll talk about him a lot, I'm sure, but he bowled a classic 4th innings Neil Wagner spell. Tim Southee had a great test match overall. I thought Jamieson bowled really well. Even Santner, whenever he hit the rough, was getting it to go. It wasn't an easy pitch to just go bang bang, or not even bang bang, or to show that level of intent. Especially if you just think back to 3 days back, they were 120, 130 out for 6, if not for Ollie Robinson and Rory Burns. Good 100, but he was dropped a couple of times, missed a couple of times. Without that, New Zealand might have fancied an innings, innings victory. So I think it's funny for me. I think I'm happy. Like, I like the World Test Championship, and more power to the World Test Championship thanks to this game. And also, I'm a big fan of the draw. And talking of the World Test Championship final, Mel, they have decided if it's a draw, the two teams share the title. If anything, added that
or a tie,
of course. Like, but draws are very much part of Test cricket. I thought of the 4 amazing Test matches we saw in Australia or our summer here, the Sydney Test beats the Brisbane Test in my book. It was just extraordinary to see 2 men like Ashwin and Vihari put their body on the line. And yeah, I mean, some of the English batsmen had their careers on the line yesterday. Well, Zach Crawley didn't do it any good, but I thought Sibley batted well. And yeah, I think, occasionally a draw like that is not bad for cricket. And yeah, I have to correct Kalyan Fortius. Sorry if I got that wrong. There was a lot to lose for England. Yeah, you don't want to start off with a big defeat in game 1 and then, have that hold the rest of the summer to go ahead.
To mitigate it, I can understand people's frustration in that if there was a time that you could take a risk, this was probably a match where you could take a risk, because while there is still a lot to lose, it wasn't going to affect the World Test Championship. This draw is the making of the World Test Championship, let's face it. Yep. But that I can understand people's frustration with it, but some of the points that people raised in those nominations were pretty relevant as well. They did lose a full day to rain. I mean, it's amazing that we could complain about not being a result. We lost a full day to rain and virtually a session to arsing about, essentially, with those lost overs and the slow over rate. So it was quite amazing. The point about lack of self-belief is interesting, because perhaps it does say something. Joe Root's comments afterwards suggested that, they didn't think it. He talked about the pitch. It was up and down. He felt that, scoring over 3 and over was going to be really difficult to do on that. The self-belief, and also perhaps the fact that New Zealand felt comfortable in making that declaration, perhaps showed that maybe they have some thoughts about England's batting that made them think that that gave them a real shot at winning the game. So lots of interesting things in that. I see lots of comments coming in. It's going to be a contentious one, of course. But I'm actually going to bring in for our next nomination. A few people are asking about thoughts. Oh, hang on, not yet, Muku. I'm going to bring in one of these comments. Look, he's so quick now, isn't he? He's paying attention. All about cricket, saying thoughts on suspension. Rohit Aurora also thoughts on the Robinson ban, please. So he's suspended from all international cricket pending an investigation. Not quite sure how long that's going to be. Yeah, it's a bit of a sense from some of the people commenting on it who are in the know that maybe it might be a bit lengthier than one game. We know he'll miss the next test, but what happens after that, still up in the air. What are your thoughts on that, Bar?
Yeah, I mean, like we said yesterday, we both said he should be banned. I mean, he should be given a break from international cricket. I was reading somewhere that there's still the part of the investigation or pre-investigation process is to find out if he was contracted with a county at that point, because there's some debate or discussion about he was in between counties, at 18 or 19, whenever he tweeted those things out. So if he was contracted with a county, then I read the ECB takes over the investigation. If not, they have another committee in place which will look into that matter. But anyway, it's going to take a while. His Twitter account has been deleted. There have been some who wondered, was there more? Is that the reason why he has deleted Twitter? Or if he has, then, what if someone has taken screenshots of something he has tweeted which hasn't come to the press? So, I mean, it's all conjecture. Hopefully there's nothing more. But I think it's good for him as well. cricketing wise, I thought Ollie Robinson made a great debut. He showed a lot of character with the bat. I thought he bowled extremely well. He used those Lord's conditions, the slope, really well. He set batsmen up. He took 7 wickets on debut, which tells you that England have that extra option now, especially when they play in England. But it's good for him to go away, clear his head, clear his name, to kind of educate himself, spread that awareness. Because if the ECB had not done this, if they just stuck with him, there would have been a lot of repercussions, and understandably so. And when you're talking about bringing people together, and the irony in all this is yesterday, Michael Ho at Sky Sports got the BAFTA award, didn't they? On the same day.
Huge congratulations to all of them at Sky Sports, Mikey Holding and Ebony Rainford Brent in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they blew the top of that issue last year. I mean, it was being spoken about around the world, but just in those 20-25 minutes, the way they put the message across, I think they educated more people in those 20-25 minutes than people who should have been educating everyone else couldn't in the last maybe 20, 30, 40 years. So no wonder they got that award. That, by the way, is the bestest thing. Whatever nominations we are getting, that's the bestest thing that happened yesterday. But Ollie Robinson's suspension, if you're an Ollie Robinson fan, you can look at it as, so many people say a lot of things. I saw a comment somewhere, or maybe it's in our nominations about so many people have made mistakes in the past. But it's not just about a mistake. This is about educating them. And like you said yesterday, Mel, it's about, understanding why you have been penalized, right? Until the time he doesn't do that, it's better for him that he's not allowed to play international cricket. And how lengthy that ban will be, we'll have to wait and watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one. I noticed that George DeBell had tweeted that he kind of hoped that maybe his the punishment or way to deal with it would be to see him do a lot of maybe community service and education programs or something. So maybe that's it to look at. 'Cause at the end of the day, what's the outcome we want from all of this? The outcome isn't necessarily about where we punish people or not. That may be part of it, of course, but the outcome that you want is that people don't do it in the first place, that they understand, that they have good attitudes, and that's the end goal, isn't it, that we all want to get to, so that then this doesn't happen, not because someone's not caught, but because they haven't done it in the first place. So so how they do with that, it's a really, really tricky one. So I can see Shalini Balagapol believes that Robinson's suspension is too harsh. It's going to divide a lot of people, but we'll have to just wait and see what that suspension or punishment is going to be at the end of the day. So on to any more nominations that we have coming up. Here comes our next one, and it is from @Rajajimit. Good. Wagner getting Burns out with a beautiful swing delivery, not just a bounce and out bowler. There's a temptation with Wagner too, isn't there? It's a good point that you tend to think of him as just the workhorse who runs in hard and bangs it in, and he can sometimes fall into the trap of thinking that he's one-dimensional. But the amount of swing that he was getting, it was beautiful to watch, really, and just went to show perhaps a little bit more of the complexity or his range as a bowler as well, bowling in different conditions.
It's one thing that annoys Neil Wagner a lot when people talk about just or focus only on his bounces. I remember a press conference, and this is before I ever personally interacted with him in Perth when New Zealand played the day-night test. And I don't remember who the Aussie journalist was there. There were two questions about him bowling excessive bounces or something, and you could see he got annoyed. And later, a few months later, when I interviewed him in New Zealand, I asked him about that. I said, "That's the only time I've seen you get annoyed in public." And he was like, "Yeah, I mean, I don't want the world to think that I'm a one-trick pony." And he actually said that I, in fact, get more excited when I'm swinging the ball, hitting someone's stumps or getting them nicked out, which he did with Stuart Broad in the first innings. He bowled him, and yesterday with that beautiful delivery to Rory Burns very early in his spell. And you can see the excitement. And I remember watching him in the nets where every time he would swing the ball, he would get so excited. He would ask the batsman. He would keep asking the batsman, "Did it swing? Did it swing? Did it swing?" So it matters a lot to him, and his beauty is the consistency he has with his bouncers, and he knows how to use it as a weapon. But he actually says and believes, and he executes it as well. He bowls to the conditions. He's that kind of bowler. He's a smart bowler. He knows how to take wickets. And I thought he was slightly unlucky. He could have taken 3 or 4 or 5 wickets, maybe won New Zealand the game yesterday. Neil Wagner is anything but a one-trick pony, and he'll tell you that.
Well, exactly. I was certainly pleased to see him do what he was doing there. There was wonderful to watch. That he's one of our favourite bowlers. We love talking about him.
Yeah.
Is that all we have in the nominations on the Twitter front? Because I know we've got a few more. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. From @ABCricket19. Bad Crawley's shot selection doesn't seem to have learned from the first innings dismissal. You could probably say awesome other dismissals before the first innings dismissal as well. I mean, to see him go for a booming drive, chasing one, a wide one, ball leaving him, it's got to be a worry, hasn't it? The compulsion to play that shot to that delivery, especially after you've got it out that way in the first innings. Joe Root has talked about, so those young batters having to learn quickly. And he's one that I guess he does have to learn quickly. He has to rein in that compulsion to, especially early on, to play that. We're just seeing England, being 2 down early on, probably far too often, and they'll get away with it sometimes, but they won't get away with it at other times. So it's how do you just get him to be a little bit more circumspect, I guess, at times, and not get sucked in the way that he seems to get sucked in.
Yeah, and first innings you could have given him a pass. Happens, first test innings of the season, of the summer. Ball was up there. Tim Southee, again, very canny bowler. He bowls so many of those deliveries, even to Joe Root or even to established batsmen. You could maybe pardon him, but to do it twice, especially in the situation where your team is trying to bat out X number of overs on a tricky pitch. I don't think that can be pardoned. And going back to what I've been saying over the last 4 or 5 days, the IPL players will be back. Ben Stokes is already bowling and batting in the nets. I saw on Sky yesterday. You're just risking your own place in the side. I mean, the only thing he has going for him is that Dan Lawrence did look even worse when the way he got out in the first innings. And Dan Lawrence, I think he got 1 score in India, not much apart from that. So it might come down to that. Look, Zach Crawley, you have to feel for him as well. Like, he's been tried as opener. He got that massive score last year against Pakistan. Played spin beautifully. I said earlier, Ashwin spoke about how he was amazed by Zach Crawley's touch when they played for the same county. So there is something special about him. But getting out like that. I mean, just ask Damon Martin. He was great on the eye, and he did 1 shot, and he didn't play Test cricket for the next 6 or 7 years. So you can't keep getting out in the same fashion, especially playing a loose shot at that level. And you can only do it so many times before it catches up, and it'll be difficult for you to come back.
Yeah, I see you mentioned Ben Stokes in the nets. Darshith Rajendra says good. Ben Stokes practicing in the nets. It's always good. Ben Stokes practicing in the nets. He's possibly one of the most entertaining players in the nets, but a good sign for England as well. And Dr. Joy makes a point. Nomination for bad. Robinson may have played his first and last match for England. By the time investigation gets over, Archer, Stokes, Curran, Wokes will be back in the squad, and it will be difficult to break in again. Yeah, that's a good point. It's why you have to make the most of the opportunities. Although, I mean, I think he's shown enough on the field And there's so much rotation, so much cricket being played at the moment. And England, do have this policy. They play more tests than anyone. England usually in any given calendar year. So I think there'll be other opportunities for him if and when they decide to bring him back. So yeah, there you go. I think we've covered. Oh, go on. What have you seen?
Siddesh Sherkar has made his point a couple of times now about how the match lost its value when even the commentators started talking about movies and directors on air. One thing about the Sky commentary team is, and they do it better than anyone else, like Fox or like Star Sports in India, they do end up talking about non-cricketing issues, but I think they do it in a fashion where you're never taken too far away from the cricket. Michael Holding was talking about his journey, like traveling from the Cayman Islands to England and watching racing. I remember there was a period yesterday they spoke about the prettiest village grounds, or maybe it was on day 4. But they do it better than any other commentary or broadcast crew, commentary panel around the world. And I don't know whether it was a case, Siddesh, of the match having lost its value. It was still a test match. But Ian Ward in particular was very critical of England, and David Lloyd called it the most boring test ever. So they expected a lot more from their English team than maybe you and I did, Mel. Maybe we are in the wrong here. I don't know. But I mean, it wasn't the first time a team hasn't gone for a run chase. And with a young batting lineup like that, James Bracey looked all out of sorts, like in that first innings against Tim Southee, against the best bowling attack in the world in my book. I don't put it I don't think it like England did a bad job with that. I mean, I think it's fair that they didn't go for and I don't think the match lost its value at all. I stayed up watching, but that was also because I had to cut things for Isha's school. So I'm very bad at cutting.
That sounds a bit violent to me. I noticed a point there from Saad Ahmed saying, can a reserve day be allocated for all tests to ensure 5 full days of play? It will only be used if lost playing time cannot be recovered through the normal provisions of making up lost time each day. The problem with that, Saad, is that you're adding several days to a tour, and the calendar is so packed as it is. I just can't see them doing that. At times when you have the back-to-back tests, they're not going to allocate another entire day, especially when you have sort of 4 and 5 test series. Do you know what would be a better idea is maybe if we didn't lose so many overs to a slow over rate or arsing about. I actually think they should stop calling it fined for slow over rates and call it fined for arsing about. Let's just call a spade a spade. That's what it should be. Yeah. So Bharat Sundaresan, what is your goodest thing of the final day of the first test?
The goodest thing is how good the New Zealand bowlers looked, honestly. This is still, for a lot of people, this is a preview for that World Test Championship final, but I think the England-New Zealand series itself is worth a watch. It has a lot of value, even though it doesn't have World Test Championship points. But just the way that they were shaping up, I thought Kyle Jamieson struggled with just the makeup of Lords in his first few spells in the first session, but he seemed to come into his own. Neil Wagner, like I said, again, was much better in the second innings than the first innings. Tim Southee was brilliant, and Trent Boult was up and about. So it all we want to see the best bowling attack versus maybe the best bowling attack with New Zealand and India. So it's good to see them all fit and ready to go.
Yeah. Okay. So what was your baddest thing for the day?
Wow. That's a tough one. I think the personally speaking, the over criticism of the exaggeration around England, ruining Test cricket, massacring Test cricket. I saw in one of the comments, and doing great disservice to Test cricket. Seriously, when you have that kind of total, when you're asked to go at 3.5 runs an over, and you don't have your best batsman, you don't have your attacking batsman, proven attacking batsmen like Butler and Stokes. So it really came down to Joe Root. You heard the commentators talk about, okay, who's going to take the New Zealand bowlers on? And it came down to Joe Root. But then if Joe Root had gotten out, then you're down to the Dan Lawrences and the James Braceys of the world. And a longish tail as well with Wood, Broad, and Anderson. So I think too much is being made out of England not going for the target.
Yeah, I'd say there's also a late nomination from Gaurav Paul for ridiculous. Broad got his first wicket after 80+ overs were bowled in English conditions. I'm throwing that one in there for the mix. But for you, what was the ridiculousest thing of the day?
Well, I saw it. I saw it in the comments. I wanted to talk about it. There you go. Rahul Srinivas. I have to give it to the guy in the stands starting to wear his raincoat. I mean, it was not just funny, but that's the beauty of. And Isha was watching it with me, and she's not a big fan of draws. She's really fallen in love with Test cricket of late. But I think they do it better. They do the dry humor better than situational humor better than anywhere else in the world, like the English. And you would agree with me, Mel, having lived there. It was nothing. It was just like the guy putting on a raincoat, and they kept focusing on him. And then at one point you realize he was putting it on the wrong way, and then Nasser Hussain's like giving commentary as he puts it back on. It's just really silly humor, but they do it so well. I think Rahul is absolutely right. That was the most ridiculously brilliant thing yesterday that I saw.
Well, that's it. I heartily approve of that one. I think that there should be more time spent on wardrobe malfunctions generally in cricket. Cricket needs more wardrobe malfunctions and a lot of commentary devoted to it. So, man, I'm renowned for wardrobe malfunctions. I once split my pants on camera. Now that was embarrassing. So wardrobe malfunctions, they're known as, or dubbed wardrobe malfunctions. Well, that is it for the first test as far as good, bad, ridiculous goes. Thank you so much for all your nominations and for joining us. Let us know what you think. Please share and like and comment and do all of those things. And we will be back for the second test. And who knows, there might even be a result. See you next time.